If you are safe, then so am I. 'Cause there is no me and mine, no you and me. It's only us, it's only us.
It has to be.
Let's do what it takes, let's do what we can. Each one will be safe.
It has to be.
Let's do what it takes, let's do what we can. And that is the plan.
It has to be.
If you are safe, then so am I. 'Cause there is no me and mine, no you and me. It's only us, it's only us.
It has to be.
Let's do what it takes, let's do what we can. Each one will be safe.
It has to be.
Let's do what it takes, let's do what we can. And that is the plan. It's happened, we never thought it would, but it's happened. It's happened, we never thought it would, but it's happened. We drew the lines of me and mine. We were such fools, we missed the bus. It's not you, it's not me, it's only us. 'Cause I am you and you are me. There's no difference, can't you see? It's not you, it's not you, it's not me, it's only us.
It has to be.
Let's do what it takes, let's do what we can. Each one will be safe.
It has to be.
Let's do what it takes, let's do what we can. And that is the plan.
It has to be.
If you are safe, then so am I. 'Cause there is no me and mine, no you and me. It's only us, it's only us.
It has to be.
Knowledge sharing is the actual capital for nation building.
Expectedly, it aims to develop deeper capacity and more sustainable interest towards the subject.
We believe that each one of these volunteers should at least impress upon 5 more volunteers.
We believe that we need to have empowered adults in every family. We believe that every family needs a Rakshin. Rakshins who recognize sexually abusive behavior. Rakshins who have the language to call it out. Rakshins who know how to de-escalate a situation and report violence. Rakshins who make the world a better place.
And believe me, if the child gets the courage to detect abusive behaviors, learns how to voice them, learns how to approach it further so that the perpetrators are taken to task, if not taken to task, at least they are put to some kind of counter questions. Believe me, they will gain confidence and they will do better in other walks also.
Such abuse may deeply distort the child's relation with the world and the world. Certainly, an organization like Sakshi cannot be a mute bystander. Given that, the details of the fellowship are truly impressive. The fellowship looks intense compared to other NSS training programs. 2 years across 18 modules and 12 certificates. Expectedly, it aims to develop deeper capacity and more sustainable interest towards the subject.
Knowledge sharing and leveraging it to the maximum boundaries has become the major societal concern and the foremost responsibility of each and every citizen.
We believe that each one of these volunteers should at least impress upon 5 more volunteers or families in their neighborhood so that this message can be spread wide and loud.
If you want to be a part of the movement, if you want to support the Rakshin Project, if you want to be a Rakshin, if you want to stop child sexual abuse, then connect with us at www.therakshinproject.org.
A 6-year-old child was
This
outraged.
is the third time
Half of
just in a
sexually
year ago.
abused children are boys.
by her uncle.
Child sexual abuse is often hidden, unseen, or unreported, and its effects on the individual, family, and society are profound and long-lasting.
कोई भी ऐसी घटना जो हमारे साथ घटती है that makes us feel small and excluded becomes a secret inside us.
I have been through this twice and they were very close to me.
We all experience something which we don't want but that happened with us.
क्योंकि आपके साथ में child sexual abuse हो रहा है, are you experiencing any obstacles in accessing your right to equality?
समानता है या होनी चाहिए? कौन कहता है? We the people of India give ourselves this constitution.
It's your constitution. It's your right to equality. Why don't you practice it every day?
Through the Rakshin Project, Sakshi is working towards creating a social tipping point for an India where child sexual abuse does not occur.
आज का प्रोग्राम इतना हेल्पफुल था कि मुझे कोई वर्ड नहीं मिल रहा है बोलने के लिए।
एक ऐसा घटना जो हम किसी से शेयर नहीं कर पाते हैं, वो घटना आज मैंने शेयर किया।
इतने सालों से मैं ना बोल नहीं पाती थी।
ऐसे बोली as if your life depends on it.
जब मैंने आँख बंद करके नो चिल्लाया तब मुझे बहुत हिम्मत मिली।
लोग कई चीजों से बोलने से शर्माते हैं।
ये क्या है?
और कहीं ना कहीं यह चीज दब कर रह जाती है।
प्रेस, शर्म आ रही है? मुझे तो नहीं आ रही, आपको क्यों आ रही है?
लोग क्या कहेंगे, सोसाइटी क्या कहेंगे, उस चीज को आज मतलब मैं पीछे छोड़ के I can speak up now.
Directorate of NSS, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India has directed Sakshi to deliver workshops to prevent child sexual abuse under the POCSO Act 2012.
Across 40,000 colleges, across the country, who better than NSS units, the future of my country tomorrow, who have committed to do service from today.
जहाँ भी मैं बुरा सुनूंगा, जहाँ बुरा देखूंगा, तो मैं चुप नहीं रहूंगा, मैं आवाज उठाऊंगा।
प्रोटेक्शन जरूरी है, लेकिन प्रोटेक्शन से भी ज्यादा जरूरी क्या है? डोंट दे से प्रिवेंशन इज बेटर देन क्योर?
रक्षण कौन है जो प्रिवेंट करे?
इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ योर चॉइस।
क्या होना चाहते हैं? एक चेंज एजेंट या एक इंसान?
It's time to speak up and say no. It's time to say stop child sexual abuse.
न करेंगे, न करने देंगे। सब बोलिए जोर से। So if all of you sitting over here, if each one of you teaches two, then it becomes how many?
If you want to be a part of the movement, if you want to support the Rakshin Project, if you want to stop child sexual abuse, then connect with us at www.therakshinproject.org.
है तुझ में रोशनी जहाँ की खुद पे तू यकीन कर, यकीन कर, यकीन कर, यकीन कर, खुद को जला ले नौजवान, खुद ही तू मशाल बन, शाल बन। है तुझ में रोशनी जहाँ की खुद पे तू यकीन कर, खुद को जला ले नौजवान, खुद ही तू मशाल बन। खुल रहे जो रास्ते वो सब है तेरे वास्ते, दूसरों को राह दिखा दे, खुद ही तू मिसाल बन, खुद ही तू मिसाल बन, खुद ही तू मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, मिसाल बन, मशाल बन। अपनी रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा मेरा मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, मिसाल बन, मशाल बन। अपनी रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा देना मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, मशाल बन, मशाल बन। खुद ही तू मिसाल बन, मिसाल बन, मिसाल बन, मिसाल बन, मिसाल बन, मिसाल बन। है किस लिए डरा डरा, किस बात का संकोच, क्यों है तू रुका रुका, भयभीत तेरी सोच है, आंखें बिछी है दुनिया की तेरे ही इंतजार में, निकल पड़ अपनी राहों पर तू, मंजिल बेकरार है, मंजिल बेकरार है। खुद की तू मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, मिसाल बन, मशाल बन। अपनी रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा देना मिसाल बन, मशाल बन मिसाल बन मशाल बन अपनी रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा मेरा मिसाल बन मशाल बन मशाल बन मशाल बन जगाए जा तू मन में जो बढ़ाए जा तू कारवा जगाए जा मन में जोत बढ़ाए जा तू कारवा तुझी से रोशन हो जहां ये जमीन ये आसमां तुझी से रोशन हो जहां ये जमीन ये आसमां तुझी से रोशन हो जहां ये जमीन ये आसमां ये जमीन ये आसमां खुद ही तू मिसाल बन खुद ही तू मिसाल बन खुद ही तू मिसाल बन रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा मेरा मिसाल बन मशाल बन मिसाल बन मिसाल बन मिसाल बन
Hello everyone. Welcome to Collective Action Day 3. We are so happy to have you with us here. Before we get started, let me introduce you all to Collective Action and the role of this panel towards its shared purpose. Bell Hooks said, "For me, forgiveness and compassion are always linked. How do we hold people accountable for wrongdoing and yet at the same time remain in touch with their humanity enough to believe in their capacity to be transformed?" Taking action together is a catalyst for transformation for people individually and collectively. Building collective action demonstrates solidarity and a commitment to challenge sexual violence and abuse. Practicing the ethic of collective action reminds people to build networks and alliances and broaden support and solidarity. The more connected people are to fighting back against injustice, the more difficult it gets for oppressive forces to exact its abusive power and destroy the community's efforts to transform its society.
That is so true, and that's what we are trying to do through our collective action event. We aim to create an interactive experience that brings together individuals from different walks of life and enables them to resonate with these conversations and receive some benefit from them. We have to strive for accountability.
Have we lost Divya here? Okay, so I think what Divya was trying to say over here was that the idea is that we really need to talk about accountability, not just of individuals, but also for systems. The systems that allow for sexual violence to occur. So, transformative work requires not only an understanding of these systems, but also of people and how their beliefs are shaped by these systems and institutions that surround them. We can only transform that of what we understand, which is that a culture tolerates violence. So, what is our vision then? Our vision is to create a forum that has the potential to spread awareness and knowledge, to deal with experiences on a personal and social level, and provide an opportunity to further educate and enable our actions, which is preventers of child sexual abuse, to recognize, address, and prevent child sexual abuse. I would say that if you believe in the effectiveness of collective action, we have an opportunity for you to be a part of our journey. This year at Sakshi, we recognize that while the medical crisis resulting from the pandemic has subsided in most parts of India, and thank God for that, there is still a need for a mammoth effort focused on humanitarian relief to safeguard vulnerable women and children from the alarming increase in domestic violence and child sexual abuse. This year, we are raising funds towards that cause. By supporting our fundraiser in partnership with Give India for the Rakshin Project, you can help Sakshi's mission to skill build 4 million students pan India to recognize, report, and resolve child sexual abuse and homebound violence. Every 1,000 rupees raised will equip one Rakshin to make one home a safe space. While we've managed to make over 19,000 homes safe in the last 18 months, we are in dire need of support to carry on our efforts. Many NGOs like us are facing financial strain, multiple reasons, diversion of funds, which is why we are calling for your support. By choosing to donate now, your donations may count for much more. Give India will be matching our funds raised up to a certain amount. So please find the link for donation in the chat to take collective action now. Welcome back, Divya.
Hi, I am back. So we will soon be joined by Dr. Chirni Acharya, Rene Atri, and Shaya Suresh for a panel discussion on the power of expressive arts therapy in healing from trauma. I welcome them to the panel.
So, trauma can occur in many different ways by a one time event or a series of events to an individual or a community. The impact of trauma also varies. Now, healing trauma follows different paths for everyone, and trauma inflicted mental health conditions are diverse. One form of trauma healing that has shown a lot of promise is arts therapy. Arts therapy is an integrated form of trauma healing that is rooted in the idea that creative expression can foster healing and mental well being. Arts therapy is about going beyond our mind to heal. Healing through arts therapy is about bringing into the mix the body, using movement, emotions, using the attributes of oneself that words cannot define. We are able to reach the cellular memory of that trauma, confront it, and realize that we can heal from it. Trauma is much more than a story about something that happened long ago. The emotions and physical sensations that were imprinted during the trauma are experienced not just as memories, but as disruptive physical reactions in the present. And healing from trauma then requires us to find ways to cope with feeling overwhelmed by these sensations and emotions associated with the past.
Thank you so much for that, Smita. So, like Smita said, there are several ways in which arts therapy is applied and received. Through this panel today, we are very excited to bring to light the power of arts therapy and make sense of how it may be practiced to build safe spaces for survivors of trauma and mental distress through collective action. We want to start by inviting Dr. Chirni Acharya to the discussion. Hello, Dr. Chirni.
Hi, hi. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much for being here. If I could quickly introduce you for our audience today. So, Dr. Chirni is an assistant professor of psychology and behavior sciences in Amity University, Rajasthan. Specifically, she has an inclination towards expressive arts therapy, dance psychology, neuropsychology, therapeutic interventions, and gender studies, and has researched and published numerous works across these categories. While she is a life member CID UNESCO Paris and a member of CMTAI New Delhi, she is also a Bharatnatyam dancer, theatre practitioner, and movement therapy facilitator. Wow, Dr. Chirni, we are so honored to have you with us today.
Thank you so
If I
much.
could just begin this discussion with a question, could you tell us how dance and theatre can be used for creating collective action for social causes?
Right. So if we go back to the start of the human race. So dance, or not even human race, the start of life on earth, movement has been parallel to the development of life. It's akin to the development. It's like the natural order. Everything moves around us, across the universe and everywhere. And that's an essence that is part of even the Vedic literature that says that everything moves, everything has music to it, everything has dance to it. So that is how dance and drama have been an integral part of the community life of people throughout the civilizations, going back to the ancient era to the current time. We dance out whenever we are happy, we listen to music, we sing. So that's something which comes naturally to us as humans, as everything moves. So, knowing the fact that it has been a vehicle of civilization, using it as part of the collective action, coming together in a community, and going ahead and achieving certain goal is something that is very organic, I believe, and hence it's something that should be used for collective action, because even the researchers have shown that dance has a tendency to improve quality of life. It enhances life satisfaction. It enhances your self-efficacy. It enhances your positive emotions. So learning about various dance forms across the world and knowing that they have these elements which are so similar. People may dance in circles, they may stand up on each other and dance, they have similar kind of musical instruments. So that's somewhere we are if we go back to Jung's theory of collective unconscious, we are connected through all these aspects in which we celebrate life. So that is, I believe, is a natural way of acting for a cause.
Beautiful, brilliant. I love it. Celebrate life, the collective consciousness of celebrating life. Excellent. So, if you were just to extend this a little ahead and just take it forward, how would you say that the application of this movement therapy, how can this benefit survivors of sexual violence?
Right. So, movement acts as a cathartic tool. So, anytime that we move, if we keep trauma aside for a moment, if we are moving, we are exercising, walking, dancing, or for that matter, any kind of movement, it's cathartic in many ways. It helps us release pent up emotions, or even if it's not being released, it's being calmed, it's being settled. So similarly, using the movement nuances as a tool for therapy, as a tool for healing, it only comes naturally, because as dance movement therapy believes that body speaks. It integrates our physical, emotional, mental, and other aspects together. So it brings all of them in one circle. So using movement therapy as a modality for healing, especially for the trauma survivors, is I believe the best way to do. And if we talk about children, for that matter, who are not vocal enough to even express their emotions, dance movement therapy and drama therapy and other expressive arts therapy, they provide a medium for them to express without having to speak something which they don't even understand. They can express through their bodies or maybe through their artwork, and they can respond and they can react and understand what happened to them and how they are feeling at this moment, or how they are supposed to be feeling. So this is one. Also, that the creative therapies, they also provide for a creative medium of doing things. They involve a lot of play and imagination. So bringing into action that they're going into physiology, they are not stuck with the sympathetic nervous system that they're supposed to be in the fight and fright response and dealing with the situation, but they can really tune into their emotions and understand what's happening to them, and they can break the cycle of fight and fright and really understand and become self-aware of what's happening. So that's another thing. So also that creativity in the expressive arts therapies provides for a distraction. they cannot verbalize things, but it provides for a distraction from the events and the feelings that they have been constantly been through. So this is a very positive tool for them to calm themselves, to deal with the stress, and also to release the stress. Because movement somewhere acts as a medicine to create a change in person's physical, mental, and emotional levels. So that is how expressive arts therapies, dance therapy, drama, art, all of them provide us with a creative medium, a non-verbal medium, to understand ourselves, to become self-aware of what is and how we are feeling.
Brilliant, beautiful. If I may just very quickly ask you in very short and very brief thing, how is it that you kind of gravitated towards the healing aspect of creative art, and what brought you into using it in the work that you do?
Right. So I've been dancing since, like, whatever is my initial memory, I've been dancing. So I think it gives me a lot of happiness. I dance all the time. Like, I even move as I speak. I think that's something which comes naturally. And so I believe that this thing that dance does to me, I really wanted to experience it and learn it and use it professionally. That how can I extend my happiness to society at large and make it useful? Because I definitely feel happy doing it. And my research was also concentrating on the healing effects of dance, basically, that how dance contributes to the positive emotions, how it leads to a state of flow and transcendence, and how it leads to open mind and being non-conformist and doing things that don't bind you in any way. So that really pushed me to learning it, that how dance can be used as a therapeutic tool. So that all comes from me because I have experienced the healing effects of dance after a bad day at work or a very busy day or a fight with a friend. I know if I dance it out, everything is settled for me. So using it professionally, I think, came organically to me.
Brilliant, excellent, and so lovely because I can just see myself doing this a lot more than I already do. And it's lovely and very, very encouraging and inspiring to see how actually you have brought together your dance, the psychology, the neuropsychology of it, and the gender studies, and all of it together into doing the work that you do. Brilliant. And we would continue this conversation in a little bit after we've heard a little more from other panelists. So,
Definitely.
thank you so much for being here and starting the conversation with us
Thank
here.
you.
And we'll see you soon back. Yes. So, I would like to invite Rene Atri into the discussion to talk more about expressive arts in practice.
Hi,
Hi,
Smita.
welcome.
Hello, Divya. Thank you so
Hi.
much for
Hi.
having me here. And definitely, let me take this forward. I've been listening to everything that's been touched upon so far, and there's so much that I'm itching to add. Honestly, the platform that you all have provided is beautiful, and I would like to take it forward right away.
But
Um,
I want to quickly introduce you for our audience and let them know the fantastic work that you have been doing. So Rene
oh,
Atri, you are a practitioner of expressive arts therapy. You subscribe to an eclectic approach where your practice is trauma informed, anti-casteist, feminist, intersectionality informed, and queer affirmative. You are the head of Youth for Expressive Arts, an initiative for youth for mental health, a mental health facilitator at Noor, a project incubated by Teach for India, and are a member of the World Federation of Mental Health. Rennie, you're also actively working with individuals, organizations, and communities to support and facilitate mental health at various levels in society. You believe in mental health for all and the power of arts to attain the same. And I hand it over to you to take it forward with just a small question that I want to put over here for you, which is if you can bring your conversation and focus it on how are women from underserved populations engaging with the arts to heal their trauma, and how does taking it forward the youth engage with expressive arts? And is there a difference? Are there similarities? What has your experience say?
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Smita, and also for the questions that you have offered. I'd like to start by just talking a little bit about what trauma is, after all. It's such a mystified word that, oh, this was so traumatic for me. We throw this word around left, right, and center every day. Stop traumatizing me with this. This is traumatic. Well, what is trauma? According to American Psychological Association, trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event, which is, for example, an accident, rape, or natural disaster. And then the APA also talks a little bit about, what happens because of trauma. What I'd like to bring in here is also contextualizing trauma in accordance with the lived reality of your client. So, really allowing your client to speak for themselves and identify what has been traumatic in their experience. What might be traumatic for me might not be traumatic for Divya, might still be traumatic for Smita, so on and so forth. So the subjectivity needs to be taken into consideration while we're addressing the idea of trauma over here, right? So that's the first thing. So basing it into and really grounding the space, the therapeutic space, in the client's lived reality and their experience. That is something that I want to start with as the baseline. Now, what is expressive art therapy? Again, something that the masses in India are increasingly becoming aware of, but still I would like to take this opportunity to demystify expressive arts therapy as well a little over here. So we look at intention first and foremost. काफी हम सब लोग आर्ट इंगेज करते हैं आर्ट्स के साथ, especially in India, with all the cultural richness that we have. There are columns, there is henna, there is rangoli, there is so much that we do, right? But all of in school and institutions that we go to, it is all really looked upon as something that we need to focus with the aesthetic value of. If it is not good looking, then you don't engage with arts. If it's not aesthetically pleasing your eyes or the other's eyes, you don't engage with it really. But over here, when we talk about expressive arts therapy, we look at the intention of using it for a therapeutic purpose. So we do not look at how aesthetically pleasing this is, or how nicely the client or the group is moving together, right? So we don't take into consideration any of this, which leads us to not having the prerequisite of any training or experience with arts before you engage with arts for a therapeutic intention, right? Now, the next thing that expressive art therapy is capable of offering is the distance and the sensory experience. Now, when we come back to trauma, we look at how trauma is not a verbal transaction. Trauma is a felt experience. It happens to you, and a lot of times it leads to silencing of expression somewhere. It takes away from the person who has been traumatized. So when we're looking at that, it becomes excessively important for us to understand what feels safe while exploring trauma. What feels okay? What is the distance? How far or close do you want to be with that incident that we are addressing over here, right? So the mind-body relationship really comes into the picture. Expressive arts therapy looks at bringing the body into the conversation. And, it's not just the mind that's experiencing it, and it's not just the body. It's both of them together. And what we are thinking affects our body. What our body is experiencing affects our mind. So we cannot leave the body outside of this conversation, right? So when we bring that in, how do we take care that it doesn't get enmeshed, and we can still look at the trauma as separate from the individual? You are not your trauma. You are the individual who has experienced it. And how do we then externalize it? How we then understand it and process it really comes down to the quality of the therapeutic space that you're availing. So There is more information once the body, there are more sources of information once the body enters the conversation. So you can observe the body, what's happening for your arms, what's happening for your shoulders when you're engaging with a certain conversation, and so on and so forth. Just to give an example. So when we look at all of these things, let's take an example of the underserved women, right? Something that Smita asked. So, since I've been working with Teach for India's incubated project called Noor, I'm actively coming in touch with women who do not necessarily actively acknowledge the trauma that they're carrying. Intergenerational trauma, कि ऐसा तो होता ही आया है, ये तो करती हैं औरतें, यही है, हमें यही करना है. This is the role that I identify with so much, of not speaking of what I'm feeling, of not being able to even access spaces where there is safety, there is that opportunity to really get in touch with yourself and speak about your feeling. So in this space, we bring in the idea of what Chirmi was, addressing right before this conversation: play, lightness, imagination, opening up those avenues really for the women to see that, oh, I'm not just a mother, I'm not just a daughter-in-law, I'm not just a wife, I am also an individual who has had all these experiences. So once you open that window up for them, that possibility and that reality for them, I would actually correct myself and say with them. It really makes a world of a difference for them to really see and then start playing with what is happening in that individual space. That, oh, I felt that expression of, I saw this when I was a child, this happened with me as a young girl, and this is continuing to happen with me. What do I feel about it? So addressing that begins there. So providing that safety and that distance is very, very important when we are looking at trauma, because it is a very sensitive topic. So also, what is beautiful is that we don't expect them to narrate their stories all over again when they're not ready. That integration can happen in the very end. So we use linguistics mindfully here. So you don't have to really say the same things that happened to you, relive that and get re-traumatized. So allowing for perhaps a page to hold your expression. Perhaps, bringing in the idea of a doll. You can make a doll, make a puppet, project on that, live through that with a safe distance. So if I talk about my personal experience of child sexual abuse, I don't say I felt this as a child. That comes dangerously close to us sometimes when we are not ready to integrate that with language. So what's a better alternative? Maybe making a doll, projecting on that. The doll felt really scared. The doll felt terrified. And so you're finding a way to bring your expression into the real lived shared reality, where your therapist is listening to you, where your group, your community is listening to you, but you're still not dangerously close to that identification with the trauma incident. So you're distanced. So that creates a higher level of safety to engage with your own narrative, and when at their own time, at their own pace, with their consent, when the client is ready, we reintegrate and reconnect the client with the community and their own narrative. So that can happen at its own time. Yeah.
Brilliant. How beautiful is that? And how powerful is what you're talking about over here? Because even if we kind of look at the kind of community songs that we have, which bind us together, the kind of spaces that these songs provided for expression of truths that were actually held back in a personal lived reality and never found an expression anywhere else. And then there's suddenly this community singing that happens when you're ripping apart all kind of structures and dismantling them and questioning them and ridiculing them and expressing your anger. Or so there's a lot of mechanisms that are actually inbuilt into the fabric of how we have actually coming together as a community. And it's fabulous to actually be able to deconstruct all of them and actually, focus them into what we are really hoping to do is to heal intergenerational trauma, as you say. Yes.
Absolutely. And I also believe how, at a micro level, if we just look at the therapy room and that, forget about a room in the pandemic world, really, the Zoom room that we are in. Uh, the micro objective is to build that sort of externalization, the safety, the distance, so that you're able
Yes.
to see that this is not you. It doesn't consume you. You're safe at a safe distance with your trauma. Similarly, at a macro level, I believe holding the institutions accountable is also happening. With that distance coming into the picture, you're able to see who's accountable, and I need to hold this institution accountable for the same. So, even that happens beautifully at the micro macro simultaneous level. Just wanted to add that as well.
No, it's important, very important. And like you said, it's about bringing it into the context of the lived realities. And now most of us are living in the reality of this Zoom box that we have. And we're also facing the reality of a digital divide with people who we're not able to reach out to at this point. So there's a lot that we need to talk about. But at this point, I want to thank you for opening this up and making us once again focus on the power that is there in arts therapy to shift social constructs. And I will bring you back right here for some more conversation after our next panelist. Thanks, Rennie.
Sure.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful listening to you. Finally, we have Shaya Suresh here with us, who will be talking to us about her own journey with art therapy and why she views it to be extremely powerful in practice. I am so excited to invite Shreya to our discussion today, especially because of her sustained conversations and efforts as a part of the Rakshin Project by Sakshi. Shreya has always kept lending us her beautiful voice and presence. Recently, she was a part of our Zoom play, Ghat Ghat Mein Panchi Bolta Hai, which kick-started collective action. Hi, Shreya. So before we get to it, can I also professionally introduce you to our audience? This was my personal little introduction. Okay, so Shreya Suresh is a singer and songwriter from Singapore, currently pursuing her final year in Bachelor's of Contemporary Western Music from Bombay. She's been a singer since she was just 11 years old and considers her art to be heavily influenced by artists such as Amy Winehouse, Ella Fitzgerald, Bryan Adams, and ABBA as she grew up. Her current genres of interest are jazz, R&B, soul, and pop music. Apart from being a vocalist, Shreya is also a teacher and a human rights activist. Combining these talents and passions, she aspires to be a music therapist in the future. Thank you so much, Shreya, for being with us today. And we promise this time we won't make you sing.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Divya. Hi, Smita.
Hi.
So let's quickly start our conversation with a question I have for you. Uh, do you think that making music a part of our everyday lives, maybe through school or just through continuous listening, could help people improve their mental health? And if so, then how?
I mean, it's just a thing we all do these days, right? It's so convenient. Technology has made it so easy for us to like pick up Spotify and make a playlist according to our moods. Like, if we're having a bad day, we have an empowering playlist. If we have a stressful day, we have a relaxing playlist. If we have days where we're feeling like we're under the weather, we have specific playlists for that. And I'm pretty sure, if not music, there are like other forms, as Dr. Chirmi and the other panelists spoke about today. There are so many creative forms of therapy that people are using these days. So, listening to music, in fact, can be a very quick route to change your mood. But like, it's becoming extremely clear that there are so many more benefits to music than just like listening, and that's exactly why I think music therapy exists. And music can also, I think, play a huge role in bringing up a positive mindset for people, which is exactly why it is used to cure depression, anxiety, and other forms of mental illness. So sometimes it's just the uplifting sound of music that can just change your mood instantly, or it can also be the positive affirmation that the lyrics and the music provides to you, that really helps you get through the day.
Hmm. So music has really been so, like, it's interwoven into your life. If I say Shreya, I say music. It's integral to you. So how has, can I ask you? I mean, if you don't mind, how has it helped you personally to navigate difficult circumstances or create a safe space for yourself?
I'd say as a child, that used to be poetry for me and not music. Poetry used to be like my safe space. Like every time I felt like I wasn't feeling good, I used to start penning down random bunch of words together and call it poetry. And that really, really helped me. When I was like around 11, I started singing, and it all started making sense to me. Like music was, as a kid, it was just like an escape to me, like an escape from reality, because I was so focused on doing law, and music was just a side thing for me at that point. So like it was genuinely an escape from reality. So yeah, and as I grew up, I think it played the same role for me. Every time I was overwhelmed in life, every time I was feeling like, okay, I am extremely stressed today, it was always music that helped me. And in my case, it was creating music. At that time, I didn't really write a lot of music on my own, but I used to listen to my favorite artists, and just listening to them sing, I used to be like, oh my god, I need to try singing this. And just the fact that I could sing, it used to make me happy. It used to give me like some sort of hope that, okay, yes, I am good at something. Yes, maybe I should pursue this. But then it was such a confusing space for me. But somehow music kept me motivated. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank One Jam community in Singapore. Um, they are the sole reason why I am pursuing music professionally today. It was them. It's a group of people from different continents, different countries who I used to meet like 3 to 4 times a week, and we used to jam, listen to music from our respective cultures, and it used to be so nice to just listen to like all of them share their musical journeys, um, play the music that they love, cherish the artists that they love. It just put me in such a positive space when, on the other hand, I was in law school and things at home weren't going good. So it was always like a perfect escape for me. And now, since I am pursuing music, and I did have certain events in my life which were extremely challenging, I think music really helped me get out of it, along with therapy, of course.
Brilliant. Thanks, Shreya. More power to you. I really want to thank you for being vulnerable and speaking about things that we normally find ourselves staying silent about. Um, I also want to acknowledge over here that you have shared in the past that how you want to really take up music therapy and take this forward, the strength of what you have experienced in your own personal life, and take it out to others around you. So for that, I really want to applaud you as well, because it's really through people like you that we kind of, move forward towards more open conversations, because we tend to stigmatize these conversations. We tend to hide them in silences, and a feeling of feeling embarrassed or shamed about them. And the more we can actually talk about it, that yes, this is a space and this is what is making us feel better and this is how we can move forward, and maybe take 5 steps backwards and then move forward. So thank you so much for sharing, and I am so happy to call you part of the Rakshin family.
I am so glad to always come back to Sakshi whenever I can.
At this point, I also want to invite all our panelists back into the conversation as we come to the end of this very interesting insights that we've had from all three of you over here and Divya for taking this forward. It has really, really been a very encouraging session for us because we often get questioned by many who want to measure, who want us to measure the outcome of creative therapy or the power of creative therapy or arts-based therapy, or what is the relevance of therapy with the work that we are doing with survivors or people who are going through sexual abuse or sexual violence or any other kind of trauma. And so hearing all of you speak about it, and yesterday we had people who actually spoke about intergenerational trauma, and today we have all of you who are talking to us about how we can actually take a step forward into healing that which we have maybe inherited, maybe absorbed, maybe received. So it's really very encouraging to hear your thoughts, and I hope that we can continue this conversation going forward with Sakshi, with the work that you are doing and the work that we are doing, and all of it can at some point come together in the spirit of collective action and take it forward. But before I go forward, I just want to articulate that, we realize that trauma and healing and hope somewhere is like a is like an ongoing cyclical relationship, a cyclical journey, which 2 steps forward, 5 steps backwards, round and round. It's not a linear process, right? It's something which is ongoing, and it's a work in progress all the time, like the work of art which is ever going. And each one of you actually highlighted that in your own way and put it forward to us. So as closing remarks, I would invite each panelist to here share their thoughts. I'm going to do a 2-minute Maggie here. So, in 2 minutes, about how do you think art therapy plays a role in bridging the gap where other forms of conventional therapy, such as talk therapy, falls short? And I think I will start with you, Rennie, move on to Dr. Chirmi, and then end with Shreya. Yeah. So over to you, Rennie.
Thank you so much, Smita, for giving structure to this pool of knowledge that I would go on and on talking about if the structure wasn't there. I believe how the power that arts hold to elicit trauma, to contain it, to explore it and express it is what makes it different from any other kind of therapy or any other space for that matter. Quickly sharing here my personal experience when I was in first year of college is when my repressed memories around my childhood sexual abuse came up through theater. I was at that point in time engaging with drama. That's when I realized that, you know what, this is it. This is such a powerful tool, and that is forever going to live with me and people around me. I'm going to keep speaking about how safe and how allowed you feel when you're engaging with your emotions through arts. So I believe that permission that arts give you to do it at your own time, the space that it gives you to really play and explore and change shapes and forms of what you're looking at, try out different lenses, different perspectives. All of this comes together to, lend arts for therapy that beauty. And as a concluding note, I would also really like to be mindful of this that, whoever is listening to this, whoever watches this, please do not go ahead and try using arts for traumatic conversations without proper training. It wouldn't be ethical to do that, so please be sure to be trained in this field, because otherwise it can also really bring up a lot if it's not properly and ethically done. So that's my concluding remark around this conversation, and thank you so much for having me. I'd love to take this conversation forward at our own time. Thank you.
Thank
Over to
you.
you,
Thank
Cherry.
you. Brilliant. Yes.
Thank you, Smita and Divya. And I think there is nothing more that I can add which Rene has already said. But taking from there, something that Rene said earlier about having a rich culture that we can take from. So there are so many essences from the cultural activities, the dances, the dramas, the artwork that we can use as part of as a part of therapeutic modality. But if we do not look at it from a therapeutic angle, that's something we can practice on a daily basis. So, something that Rene has already said, I'll just add on to it that we have all these activities with us. There are essences in drama and dances that have the power of healing us. And if we practice that on a daily basis, not looking at it from the aesthetic angle, which Rene earlier said, but looking at it as a therapy and something as a daily dose of medication that we have to take to feel good and to deal with the trauma or no trauma on a daily basis can really help us. So I think yes,
Brilliant.
we need to extract those nuances from all these cultural tidbits that we have had over the years of civilizations coming and going. We can use them and make them part of our daily life, something to take away on a daily
Lovely.
basis.
Thank you, Dr. Chirmi. Shreya?
And thank you for letting me share the panel with such great speakers. I really love Rene already, and Shreya also. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And firstly, I'd like to start with whatever Renee said. In India, I don't think music therapy is a licensed concept yet. Anybody and everybody can call themselves music therapists. And that's why, yeah, anyone who's watching this, please don't go to anyone who just claims to be a music therapist. Make sure they're licensed. And that's a very important point. Thank you so much for bringing that out. That being said, I am extremely fascinated by music therapy and I can't wait to study it and pursue it professionally. But yeah, music therapy is, I think, on par, or art therapy in general is on par with other conventional forms of therapy because, as both of them very beautifully put it, it's used for facilitating movement and physical rehabilitation, I think, and motivating people who have problems to cope up with their treatment, which I think is brilliant. And it can also provide emotional support for people and their families, and to provide a very perfect and a beautiful outlet for expression of their feelings. And music also has been found to bring many other benefits such as lowering blood pressure and boosting immunity, easing muscle tension, and I think all of this and much more is what music therapy in particular aims to trigger, like how specific sounds are used to trigger specific parts of your brain, which enables healing and recovery. So yeah, I think this is exactly why hospitals, rehabilitation centers, and even mental health centers use um, music therapy and arts therapy as a form of therapy over the conventional and traditional forms of therapy. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shreya. Lovely. So, what we have is get trained and get trained and get trained again before you try something which is really a part of a daily life. And we have from you, Dr. Chirmi, a daily dose is important. So get your daily dose going. And yes, Shreya, can't wait for you to study and become a therapist for with music. Yes. So thank you all so much. This was so brilliant. I hand it over to Divya.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all three of you for being here today and sharing your perspective, expertise, and experience on the subject. This conversation has really personally moved me. So, I want to personally thank all of you. Dr. Chirmi for talking to us about what draws us to art as medication, as a necessity once we realize its healing power. I, I think Smita and I could both relate to it in because we've been Smita is obviously an amazing theater practitioner. I have recently started getting involved with theater. So that's why I could relate so much to what you said, Rene, also. And thank you so much for talking to us about the subjectivity in distance that comes when you're dealing with different kinds of people and different kinds of trauma. And thank you so much for focusing on how people tend to focus on the aesthetic value of art rather than focusing on how you should use it as a means to express yourself. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with every day, just to get yourself to hold a pen and write something. Before that, you already have a mindset ki, oh, what I'm writing should be perfect. So thank you so much for talking to us about that. And thank you so much, Shreya, for sharing your love for music with us. And thank you for talking about music as rehabilitation. I think I'm going to go back and listen to my chill playlist right after this. Thank you so much, all of you.
Great. This has really been very encouraging. I also want to thank the audience for joining us for this conversation, and we hope that you benefited from it as well. Please do fill the feedback form in the chat right now and tell us about your experience at Collective Action 2.0 2021.
Just before we conclude our session, we would like to once again invite our viewers to consider supporting our Give India fundraiser for the Rakshin Project by Sakshi, that is working to build 4 million college students across the country to become preventers of child sexual abuse and domestic violence. For every 1,000 rupees that we raise, one Rakshin will be equipped to prevent child sexual abuse in one home. Your contribution will go an incredibly long way in building a secure India for every citizen and affirming your role in ending violence, abuse, and harm. This is your chance to be a part of collective action towards an important social cause. You can find the link for the fundraiser in the chat right now and on all our social media bios, which are linked on our website. Thank you.
The truth we live by at Sakshi is that no home is safe till there is child sexual abuse in any house. The truth we live by is that we can make all homes safe, but only with support from each one of you. As shared by Divya and at the beginning of this evening, our intention is to make 4 million homes safe. 4 million homes where no child would get sexually abused, ever. Although the access that we have is greater than just 4 million. We have access to 4 million homes every 2 years till we can end the rippling impact of gender-based violence. We may have the best intentions, but they have no power without action. And money is what it takes to put actions into place. Money is what it takes to make intentions real. We are counting on each one of you to help us make this intention real. The amount doesn't matter. The action does. It can be 10 rupees or 10 lakh rupees. The donation link is in the chat box. Please consider donating and sharing the fundraiser with your friends and family. Thank you so much for your support and for joining us today for Collective Action Day 3. With this, we come to an end to our annual event, Collective Action 2.0 2021. We have reached the end. But
है तुझ में रोशनी जहाँ की खुद पे तू यकीन कर यकीन कर यकीन कर खुद को जला ले नौजवान खुद ही तू मशाल बन है तुझ में रोशनी जहाँ की खुद पे तू यकीन कर खुद को जला ले नौजवान खुद ही तू मशाल बन खुल रहे जो रास्ते वो सब है तेरे वास्ते दूसरों को राह दिखा दे खुद ही तू मिसाल बन खुद ही तू मिसाल बन खुद ही तू मिसाल बन मशाल बन मिसाल बन मशाल बन अपनी रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा मेरा मिसाल बन मशाल बन मिसाल बन मशाल बन अपनी रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा मेरा मिसाल बन मशाल बन मशाल है किस लिए डरा डरा, किस बात का संकोच, क्यों है तू रुका रुका भयभीत तेरी सोच है, आंखें बिछी है दुनिया की तेरे ही इंतजार में, निकल पड़ अपनी राहों पर तू, मंजिल बेकरार है, मंजिल बेकरार है। खुद की तू मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, अपनी रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा देना, मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, अपनी रोशनी से द्वार को दिखा देना, मिसाल बन, मशाल बन, मशाल बन, मशाल बन। जगाए जा तू मन में जो, बढ़ाए जा तू कारवा, जगाए जा मन में जोत, बढ़ाए जा तू कारवा, तुझी से रोशन हो जहां ये ज़मीं ये आसमां, तुझी से रोशन हो जहां ये ज़मीं ये आसमां, तुझी से रोशन हो जहां ये ज़मीं ये